Hi. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming today. My name is Jana Weiss. I'm the Online Global Student Life Coordinator. And today we are going to be talking about online information research tools with our library services and a wonderful librarian who's all about AI and online research, Alexandria Alex Almastica. Welcome.
Welcome, everybody. Okay, thank you so much, Jana. I am excited to have you all here today because we're going to be talking about how to conduct research online in with ACC libraries. Okay, um, and I want to know in the chat box first of all how drop me a question. Why are you here today? Do we have something that you want to especially emphasize in the context of a project that you're seeking? So feel free to type in chat and let me know. What are we looking for? Let's see what we get. I see we have Emily, Kimberly, Georgia, Harir, Melissa, Ting, Fulong. Who else is around? Let me see. Uriel, Suri, Tina, Hiyaya, Manola, Chase, Chu, Garrett, Fatuma, Olivia, Kinsa, Guadalupe, Cassandra, Sara, Anna, Leslie, Richard. Melissa wants to learn how to maximize the resources. Fact checking and assessing good sources. Okay. What else? See if we get some additional responses. What would you like to learn today about doing to learn more about libraries and more ways to use resources? Okay. Alrighty. So to learn how to fully navigate the library online. Excellent approach. So this is I'm gonna be demonstrating some things on the screen, and we're also going to be talking about some things that I want you to, take with you today. Um, as AC Houston City College students, you have access to a library online that HCC sponsors for you. This library is different than making use of databases outside or in other institutions. And it's also different than going on Google, Bing, or whichever other search engines you want to use to retrieve information. We pay for you to have access to pockets, containers of information, okay? And when you're thinking, like Melissa mentions, like to maximize resources, I want you always to think about what subject area are you working in? Are you looking for historical information? Maybe you're looking for something related to literature, or perhaps it could be anthropology. So depending where you are, right, there could be some sources and some online resources inside the library that could be more adequate for you. Okay, so we're gonna see that in a bit. Emily's mentioning something really interesting about fact and assessing good sources. So when it comes to facts and assessing good sources, the sources that are coming from library databases, provided through library databases, are coming and they're compiled by companies that specialize in gathering information from peer reviewed journals. And if a source is peer reviewed, that's been evaluated by an expert in the field. Sometimes it's resource like reports from companies that specialize in that, or databases that specialize in disseminating information about medicine, economics, fashion. So there's a lot of different things. So this concept of how do I check in fact checking sometimes applies even more to information that you get online from whatever. Okay. I will say this: when you are evaluating sources, I usually like to refer to A, B, C, and D. Those four letters. A, who is your author? Where did they get the information? think about that. Do they have any expertise in what they are sharing with you? When I say B, I'm talking about bias. What type of opinion is this source delivering to me? From what angle? Don't be afraid to question your sources. If you see a certain point of view, you have to think, is there a different point of view on this topic that we can talk about, okay? And bias is not whether something is right or wrong. It is the perspective that is presenting for you, right? When I say C, I'm referring to currency. What is the age of the information that I am looking at? Is it something new, or has it been published in the past, right? Sometimes you're going to find that your professors are going to delimit the age of the information, even the quantity of information that you are expected to deliver in as you're working, right? So for some fields, you know, it's okay. You're going to do some historical research and bring some sources. For others and for other topics, you may want the most current. So it is up to you to devise a strategy where you are going to determine, look, for this topic, I really need to have information that, you know, might be referring to something a little bit on the past, but that doesn't mean that you can get it from more current sources, okay? And sometimes our professors are going to ask for primary sources. And when they do this, you really have to go and we have to look at original sources of the time, right? And I always say, if you need primary sources, go talk to a librarian and sit down with them and have them help you find a primary source that is applicable to the approach that you're implementing. And then finally, you know, it was ABC, author, their bias, currency for the age of the information, and D, I use it for documentation. When you're looking at sources, one of the best things that you can do is look at a source, right, of information, and then try to see if that person is quoting something else. What are their sources? Because if somebody expresses information and they don't have a source, that could be considered just a main opinion. But maybe they have some empirical data, right? Some information that's coming because they have studied in the field. And then they have information that they are presenting to you that is coming from their own investigations. Or for example, if it's a media outlet, maybe it's a newspaper, then maybe the newspaper has had some investigative reports, or if just delivering to you facts about an event. So that is in regards to facts and checking and assessing good sources. Be very careful with sources that you retrieve online. At this point, there are a lot of AI products that when you are searching for sources using browsers are giving to you like whole paragraphs of information. And I found that sometimes that information is certainly not accurate. So you need to go and track back where your sources are coming from. And the most important thing that I want you to take away from this is that when we deliver information, right, what is really on the line is our credibility and the expertise that we are developing. If you don't develop if you don't deliver a credible source, we're in trouble. And I don't want anybody to be in trouble or be questioned, right, in regards to kind of like their sourcing. So give me in the chat, does this make sense? How to think about evaluating information, author, their bias, how old their information is, and the documentations that they use, their sources. Let me know in the chat. Let's see. Yes, thank you, Leslie. Thanks, Jessica. Thanks, Amber. Okay, thank you, Emily. Tasnim is raising their hand. Share what you need to share, dear.
Are you sharing a screen?
No, right now I'm not sharing a screen.
Okay. I have a question about the bias, that when you check the bias, actually is super difficult, even for the researchers or scientists, to evaluate and assess the website or the publication with the bias. So what exactly your criteria is?
Okay, when assessing bias, right, what you're trying to determine is the position of a source. Okay? So, for
splendid.
example, if it is a, and this is where we're gonna get really technical, because you mentioned something about science and, you know, researching, right? When you have a researcher, usually that researcher in an article is trying, let's say, to measure something, okay? And it is going to be very clear what they're trying to measure and what type of position they have when approaching that research question, okay? And if it's peer review and empirical research, right? You are going to see that they're going to have their own literature review in which they're going to share with you sources that they use to back their position. And in some cases, you might also see that they're going to deliver counterpoints, right, to their own statement. Did that make sense? Because what bias is you trying to assess what is the opinion of this person. And, you know, if you're working with hypotheses, you may have a null hypothesis and then the other hypothesis, and you will be able to compare. So it's going to be very apparent. Now, sometimes if you don't have enough field knowledge of a topic, you may have an opinion like that is not taken in consideration different aspects of a topic. So then, for example, what you want to do in this case is use a reference source to get a broad understanding of a topic. Sometimes it's down to understanding the meaning of a word, okay? And in addition, this is going to sound interesting. You want to know exactly the definition of terms that you're using so that you can assess what is this information that is being delivered to me conveying, relating, and then you have to determine, is there a different point of view in regards to this? Go ahead, Tessin. Did that make sense?
Yes, that really makes sense. I totally understand that some of the biases are understandable. Some are actually you have to go through thoroughly deep review in order to understand the major bias. So in terms of understanding about terminology, what you're looking for, you precisely, filter out all of those articles, and then you proceed to review exactly what you're looking for in that particular article. And the deep review can tell you the bias is actually hidden. Sometimes even the evaluators, even the editors
Correct.
are not able to even identify sometimes, even for mostly like expertise in the field, it actually can identify really well. So
thank you for
yes,
mentioning
you're right,
that.
absolutely. Yes, you're absolutely right. Everything does make sense. But
and I want to add one more thing, that this is something that you will notice when you're looking at some pieces of information, okay? Depending when they are published, you might see that they are sponsored. If an article, let's say that I have a product, right? And I get somebody to write an article about that. If you find sponsored, that might be an indicator of bias towards, favoring whoever is sponsoring that. Sometimes in the scientific literature, you're going to find a note that says this piece of information has not been sponsored by any entity. So then you know that this is a pure investigation, and that there's no investment in that. You can also consider that sometimes when you're looking at information, information is coming from studies that originate in grants. So there's a little bit of money involved in there. So it's really good for you to think like a detective and determine, where's this coming from? Is there a sponsor or not? Okay. And then
plus the sponsorship that you can get from the disclosure, and that's something which is very clearly elaborate in the publication. And you're absolutely right.
Okay.
Find out disclosure, find out who actually who actually provided the grant, who is supporting that study. That's something which is basically, you know, a scientist supposed to reach out and see what exactly is behind this. But that's something which is related to the disclosure. I totally understand that. But the bias is actually mostly hidden inside
There could be biases in data
demographic.
too. There could
For
be
example,
biases in questions. Yes.
right, right. For example,
Yeah.
like demographic study, if there is particular lineup like only male involved, gender involved, particularly based upon like, you know, specific culture involved. So it's all actually all together. For academic evaluations, we usually see if this is a particular population, for example, like Asian schools or American schools, this is a particular, so it's actually, so there are some of the results are actually cannot be generalized. So the bias is actually sometimes very compatible, hindering the overall outcome of your review. So it's totally different. You're absolutely right. I agree with you. Disclosure is something different. However, you finding out this information in the entire review of the article is totally different.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for that. That's an excellent question and a great approach into thinking about the information. So then we also have some questions on the file, and now we're going to get into the online library, okay? How to fully navigate the library and how to use the library in a better way for research. So I am going to share my screen. Make sure that I'm sharing my entire screen. And are we looking at Houston City College?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I am on the landing page of our college, okay? And to get to the online library, I'm going to click on my Eagle student sign in at the top right here. And we are going to look for the little tab that has the library. I'm gonna click here, and now I'm on the library website, okay? Let me see, give me 1 second. I have to make sure. I'm gonna drop this on the chat for you. That is our homepage for the library, okay? So when you are on this page, there's a lot going on, but I'm gonna highlight some areas for you that are very useful. And one of the first things that I wanna share with you is that you always have the ability of chatting with a librarian. So you can go here and you can share your name. I recommend you put your email. If you put your phone number, that's fine too. But if you want to receive a transcript, you will do your email. I'm gonna thank Melanie, right? And then I'm going to close that chat. Notice that you can email it to yourself, right? So when you end the chat, you can give it a grade and you can email yourself the transcript, right? And then you can drop your email right here and submit the feedback. If you like working at 3 a.m. in the morning, okay, we're not going to be there, but the chat will be active. And there is a bot that you can interact with. And we'll get questions the next day, okay? So we can always go back to you. So remember, the first thing that I did is we went here to ask us, right, to interact with a librarian. Now, we have different tabs here through which you can navigate. The first thing that I'm going to emphasize is this Eagle Online Library Search, okay? So can I get an example of a topic that you guys would like for me to search? That way we can ground this in something that is related to what we're working on. Let me see. Psychology. Okay. Gerardo, what about psychology do you want to know? Okay, we got psychology in the house. Guadalupe or Gerardo, you can tell me, or if anybody wants to share something a little bit more about psychology that you would want to know. Are you writing a paper about it? Is there a theoretical approach? Personalities, okay, or social interactions. Thank you so much, Gerardo. So we're gonna go do a little search, right? about this topic of psychology and personalities. I'm going back to the library, and right here, I'm going to type psychology and personality. Now, I could do an advanced search, but I'm going to start with the basic one, okay? Later, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about these databases, okay? So I'm going to click search, and what's happening is I'm going into a different interface. From home, you're going to type your W number and your password. I am typing my credentials, my ACC credentials. Now I'm logging in the system to access the source. And what's you're gonna see on the screen is that we're gonna get a ton of results. Oh my goodness, it's a lot. We got more than 300,000. Okay, that's okay. First of all, I want you to notice here that your sources are organized by how important the system determines that they are important they are in relation to your topic. Okay, but we're gonna have to filter this a little bit. Okay, so the first thing that, since we are online, I'm gonna say, you know what, I want electronic books, and perhaps I want electronic sources. Okay, and I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna click apply, and you're gonna see that the number of sources is gonna come down. So we're down to 43, still sorted by relevance. Okay, if you want to see this book, I'm gonna click here, and I'm gonna click access options, and then I'm gonna do PDF full text. This is gonna take me inside the book, and on the right side of the page, I'm going to be looking at its content. Okay, now imagine that you need to generate a citation. You see these quotations here at the top? I'm gonna click here, and then I can get an example of the citation in APA. I'm going to also share, I'm gonna create a link for this, and I'm going to drop this on our chat. So at some point later, you can try that. And also, if you come back to the chat, you can take a look at that source. Let me go back here, because I also want you to take with you this information. Okay, here we go. So that's the link to that book that we just saw. All right. I'm going to go back to my results, and here I don't want you to go back right at the top. I want you to use the feature inside the system, because I want to go back to that list that we have, and we are right there in the results. Let's say for a moment that your professor, instead of telling you to use ebooks or electronic sources, right, they say, you know, I really want you to only look at peer review sources. Now notice how we went down to 3,316. That's a way less. So here I have results that are coming with those two words. They might or they might not be about it. But right here we have psychology and personality too. So you need to explore, right, where we are. And I'm going to go back to our library website. And remember that we did that exploration right here in the Eagle Library Search. This Eagle Library Search serves as a, let's say, internal search engine that aggregates content from different sources. So you are exploring all over the online library. And I want you to explore here and explore a lot and play, okay? Don't just kind of like, oh my goodness, I'm going to get the exact same hit. Make sure that you are engaging the system in a way that is in alignment with the keywords and the things that you want to look for, okay? That's really important. So I'm going to stop here 1 second, and I'm going back. Questions about what we just saw?
I have a question, Alex. So I've noticed you log in through your ID. Is there any way we can create our own personal library when we are searching and we don't have to download every time? We just search online, review those articles, and save in our library in the
So
ABM, like my ABM. You, yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So at within that system, there is a feature that allows you to create. It's supposed to allow you to create an account so that you can save your searches. Okay. So it's usually on the top right side. Having said that, ACC Libraries is in the process of switching some things around. So our servers are really, let's say, fluid and dynamic at the moment. But that feature is there. And if you find that sometimes other, like each that we haven't jumped into databases yet, databases will allow you to create accounts where you can actually save your searches. Okay, great question. I also see that Emily is asking if sources are available like PDF, books, and some not available. You're correct, Emily. Some sources are available in PDF, meaning that you will be looking at them as if you were looking at a book. Sometimes the sources are available in HTML format, or sorry, EPUB, which is flowing text, right? And it doesn't look like the page of a book. That could be important when you actually are citing sources and you need the exact page number of an item, okay? So play around, and if you need assistance locating a page that's like a source that's showing page numbers, you can always ask us, okay? Good question. So what you saw me using, that Eagle Library Search, remember, it gets you access into an entire pool of resources from a lot of different sources. Now I'm going to switch, and we're going to go into specific databases, okay? So let me get back to sharing the screen. And then we're going to be looking at our library databases. So you see here where it says databases and journals. I'm going to click here. I'm going to open a new tab. And you're going to have access to the page. And see, we have some announcements about switching because we're going to Open Athens. And you're really going to like Open Athens. It's a different service that allows you to enter into databases a little bit easier than what we do right now across the system. Okay. So I'm scrolling down. And the first thing that I'm going to highlight, you see this area right here that has databases by title, keywords, subjects, types of vendors. Let's say you were looking for something related to the subject of psychology. You may want to scroll down and find psychology. And what's going to happen when you search is that from 300 databases, we went down to 21. So this is our curated list of sources that might be related to, or that are related to the topic. And here you see Gale One Side Psychology, the psychology databases, and also the Psychology and Behavioral Science collection from EBSCO. So I'm opening those two databases. And the first one that I'm going to show to you is the Psychology and Behavioral Science collection. Now, if you notice, see here at the top where it says my EBSCO sign in, this is where you can create your own credentials with EBSCO so that you can save results across the platform. You don't need to use your ACC credentials for this. And then here, you can customize your search. You can say, I want to look for the topic of personality. And I'm not going to type psychology because I am already inside the psychology database. I really want to select that this is going to be full text. I also want to select that this is going to be peer review. And notice that on the right side, you have some fields. In these fields, you can tell the database, you know what? I want you to find this in the title of an article. Or you can say, I want you to find it in a subject term. I'm going to stay with the title and I'm going to click search. Our results are all going to have the word personality on the title. okay? And there's different things that we can do now. You will have your access options to see PDF, and we saw an example of that. I'm gonna click online full text, and now we're going to see the text on the screen. And just as before, you can cite it, right, in APA or MLA, and you can also click here to share and send it. I would highly recommend you email yourself the articles that you find, okay? I'm gonna go back, and now we're back on our results. Notice that there is a command. Now I wanna share with you that there are a lot of ways of working inside a database to find information. And right now we are in EBSCO, right? But you can also click searching, and you can add additional databases to your search. So you see how psychology and behavioral science collection is highlighted here. If you add more, you will be switching the topic of what you are searching. So consider this idea. We started with psychology and personalities, right? And I went into a psychology database and I looked for the word personality. When you learn to master that interface of EBSCO and the way you're searching, you can actually switch to a different database by adding it, and then increase the pool of resources that you have. That is in response to a question that we had at the beginning about how to, find better, how to get more. Okay, so if you're in one database, you can add more and then expand your search. The thing that I don't want you to ever feel is overwhelmed. So try not to work last minute in finding the perfect article, because sometimes as you are going through your development for your project, there is a process that you need to consider. First of all, perhaps you think that you don't know, right? That you don't have information, but you do. There's some type of even basic definition or idea that you may have about a topic. Then you go and you interact with the sources online, and you start reading articles and titles. And some people like to find like one piece of information that is going to give them everything. And when you're doing research at this point in your career, in your, let's say, academic career, you need to consider that you are developing your knowledge. So then as you interact with your sources is adding something to the information that you already have, so that then you can construct new knowledge and deliver the product that you want, either for yourself because you may use databases because you want to learn something not related to class, or because you want to deliver something that is related to your class assignment. Okay, so consider that idea. Let me know in the chat what you thought about it. Did it make sense? Do you want me to clarify that a little bit more? See? Thanks, Jessica. Thanks, Garrett. Thanks, Kinsa. Thank you so much. And you see this conversation and the way that I am approaching it with you, when I'm asking you, is this making sense? Ask me a question. It's something like you need to interact, right? Because when you are interacting only with the system online, perhaps you don't have somebody to talk to. Well, you have your librarians, and you also have your staff in tutoring that can assist you, okay? And you can also please interact with your professors, right? Ask them questions. So this interaction is also an interaction that you can have with yourself. Meaning, if you're in the database, have I asked, have I played around enough with this thing to understand what it does? And some of you might develop a preference for a specific database over others. Thanks, Tina, Fatuma, and Kimberly. I appreciate your feedback, okay? So remember, we went into the library website and I did that Eagle library search for like a really broad search. And then I switched. I went into the databases. And then because there were some questions about psychology, I picked to narrow down to the psychology database. I'm going to go back again there because I want to show you something different. Okay. So here I am back where we started, right? Remember, we had those databases. I got there from here, databases. And then I scrolled down. We had 301, and I narrowed by subjects, right? And I switched somewhere else. And I went into the ones that are provided by EBSCO. But do you remember that I opened a different one? It was from Gale. Gale is very popular too. So here I'm going to do the same search, personality, and notice how there are topics populating for you. So if you wanted to look at something different, that will be the way to do it. So in this case, I am going to look for personality traits, and I'm going to let the database work, right? And I want you to focus right here on the top. You have results from magazines, academic journals, books, news, images, and videos. On the right side, you can say, you know what? I just want to look at that original document. And then your search is going to be a little bit different, and you will have more parameters set there. If you don't want that, you take it off, and then you're back to what you had. I want you to notice that you can get a link here. I'm going to copy this link and drop it on the chat. When you see this link, it should take you back to the same search that I'm showing to you on the screen, okay? And remember, you can always go back to Teams and look at the transcript for this, and later I'll email you. So here we are in Gale 1.5. We're looking in the psychology database, and we had tons of articles. One thing that I want to highlight is that the database gives you the word count for the amount of words that are in there. And some professors, they like that. If you see something that has 287 words, that might be, too little. Maybe we need more. Maybe we need one that has like 4,000. So let's check this one out. So right now I'm looking at the article, right? And this is the content for it. It has pictures. And at the bottom, I have an example of my MLA citation. Is the citation perfect? No, it's not. Okay. So don't just copy paste this into an assignment and turn it in. You have to make sure that your citations are correct. There's another webinar that we have that covers how to do your MLA or APA citations. So please do check that. Now, if you want to send this to yourself, you can also click here, and I will say use the email, and make sure you're emailing yourself your sources, okay? Because if you sometimes, for whichever reason, something happens and then you can't get back to your source, then you might have a hard time, gaining access. So it's not, all systems are not perfect all the time. So I always encourage you to document the source and get that citation and save it, okay? Because that's gonna take, save you a lot of time. Now, we were in Gale, and one of the earlier questions had to do with bias, right? And how do I determine opinions? And how do I take a look at that? I'm gonna show you another source from Gale that is really good when you are evaluating positions on certain contemporary topics. And I'm going to share two sources that are really good for that. So we're back here we're going back to the library, to those databases. And in the databases, under the O, there is it's from Gale. You can actually find it under Gale, but I always remember it as Opposing Viewpoints. So one of the databases is Opposing Viewpoints, and the other database is called Source Issue Researcher. This database is from Issues Researcher, this one right here. It's via ProQuest. So this database is really interesting because what it does is it presents different viewpoints on issues. I could search here, but I am going to go to browse the issues that they have. And you're going to have a full list of direct reports and things that are related to that. So I'm going to click on artificial intelligence. I'm gonna click on that one. And what's gonna happen is they're gonna have a full report on that topic with an overview. And this could be really good. Let's say you're writing a paper about why not to use, AI. This will give you pros and cons. It will also tell you a little bit of the history. And towards the bottom, sometimes it has questions too that can help you guide the way that you're examining an issue. It might include a timeline, okay? And then you have additional sources. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna scroll down because I wanna highlight this right here, the viewpoints. Notice that you have different opinions on topics related to the issue. Like, how is AI going to ruin the planet or save it? It won't take your job, but it might make it worse. Politicians shouldn't fear AI. So in this way, you can explore the issue and different positions on it. I'm going to go back to my issues, and I'm going to look at the different one. Let's see. Let's look at globalization, and then you will see the same. Your report, and as you scroll down, you'll have viewpoints. Globalization is over with the Trump tariff reset US-China rivalry. So it's telling you where this is also coming from, or 30 years of the World Trade Organization. And then you can go through and evaluate your sources, okay? So this is an excellent database when you're trying to explore a contemporary topic and you want to get a good understanding about it. Now, I'm here in opposing viewpoints. Let me see if this one doesn't work. I may have to go back and try a different link, like the one here at the bottom. This is where Open Athens comes in. So I'm going to do Houston. See if Houston City College. You're going to log in with your credentials. I'm going to log in with mine. Let me change the password. So sorry. So now we went through Athens to log into this database, okay? And you have the ProQuest and Sears Discovery. So I'm going to focus on the Sears Issue Researcher. And we have different issues here. I'm going to explore the all-con leading issues. And if you notice, this is a list of different topics. So in this case, I am going to check the one for airport security and see viewpoint 1 or viewpoint 2. This is giving me different biases, right? And then you have critical questions and also a timeline of issues. So this database, remember, is Sears Issue Researcher. So if you notice what I'm doing, right, when we talk about online research and the online library, you have to go to the library and you have to explore the interface. There's not just one way of doing things, because a lot of it depends on your topic, your approach, the type of source that you're looking, right? And we have around, let's say, 301 databases, right? And I just went through 3 of them, but there's way more. So one of the best things that you can do as you are developing your own approach to online research in a database or in the library is determine what is the subject field that I am searching or that I am interested in, and what type of online source is the best for me to explore. Okay, I cannot emphasize how important that is for you. If you are going to be in education, engineering, cosmetology, right, business, they are databases that are specifically populated with information from those specific fields. So once you know which database it is, then you go in there and you become master of how to search there, so that you know that you are searching in the online library in the database that is best for what you need. Okay? Questions about that? Let me check the chat. Thank you, Sudi. Thanks, Jessica. Thank you, Ziaji. Thank you so much. Okay. Are you ready for a little bit more? This is a lot. Thank you, Guadalupe. Thank you, Fatuma. Are you ready? There will be a recording of this meeting. Yes. At this time, your ACC credentials are not available for you once you are an alumni, only while you are enrolled. But if you come to campus, if you are on campus, even if you're an alumni, you can get access to the databases. Okay, that's an excellent question. You're welcome. Any other questions or things that you're curious about? Okay, thanks, Guadalupe. Thank you, guys. Okay, let me go back to the library online. I'm going to close all of these tabs. Okay, because this is where we started. We went here to the Eagle Library Search to take a look at a lot of different things. And then we went into some databases here, right? And we talked about a few of them. And we saw, oh, we can narrow down by subject, right? If you want me to share one database that some of your professors absolutely love, it's under the J. This is really good for history and psychology too. It's called JSORT. And remember, you saw me logging in using Open Athens. So that's something that you can use. This is where I'm going to say that if you go online and you do this, if you do this, you are not in the library. You see this here at the top? Right now, you're just searching. So one thing that I never want you to do is like, just don't pay for information, okay? Use your databases to get access to information via the library. You don't need to pay for articles. You don't need to pay for content. We have a lot. If you ask me one database that I absolutely find super cool, it's under the N, and it's called Newsbank. Why Newsbank? Because Newsbank is a database that gives you access to newspapers. And you know how sometimes newspapers are behind a paywall and they want you to pay or make an account? You can go through the library and you can go through Newsbank to look at newspapers. And you notice that we have the Chronicle, the Austin American, and other Texas titles. So this is really good when you want to research in newspapers too. In regards to other things that we have in the library, I want to highlight that you have an account, right? And when you borrow sources from the library, you can access your account right here to see what's checked out. So or if you want to renew an item, you can do it online. We also have magazines that you can look at in this area, and this could be really cool. Let's say we are going to National Geographic, and I am logged in already. So now the service is called Flipster. So if you needed an article, you can click read now. And then we will be looking at a magazine as if it was on print. This is an excellent service. Let me move this. There we go. And now we are just looking at a magazine online. So we have a pretty good selection of different magazines that you can use at from the library. Let me go back here. So I got there through right here, Flipster, VO magazines, and then you can have access to the entire collection that we have of magazines. And this is a subscription that the library purchases so that a student have access to magazines. One thing also in terms of the online library that you want to explore is the career section, because in the career section, you have access to a lot of different resources that are related to the job market. If you have not visited ACC Career Coach or the Career Hub, this is something that I highly encourage you to visit, especially because at the Career Hub, you already have access. So you can go to here, enroll students, and you can get help online with making your resume better. And then also, please do explore the careers. But one of the library sources that we have that is amazing is Mometrics, this right here. When you go to Mometrics, you are going to get access to a platform that allows you to see products related to these fields. So sometimes we have students that are looking for textbooks for practicing for the HESI, and you can have access to a book right here through the library. You have to be logged in to look at the material. So now, here we go. This is the one for HESI, and you are looking at the source. You cannot print the entire thing, okay? But you can use it online. So the way I got to here, HESI, or let's say if you wanted to practice some different skills, is I went through the library, I went through careers, and once I was there, I clicked on Mometrics. And let's say you needed to practice something related to the English language, you can click here and you have some tests. Or if you needed to do, sometimes students, they want to practice for other tests. Let's see if we have, no, we don't have that one there. So if you have a different test that you have to take, this could be a good place to go assess if there's a service that you might want to use. Going to go back again to the library, and then I'm going to share something here. Let me see. You see this research guides? We also have the writing, research and writing right here, and different guides for that. If you click on research and writing, on the left side, there is a page for citation and guides. I'm going to link this to you, because if you're writing papers, there is a chance that you either might have to use APA or MLA, okay? So I want you to go there at some point and explore those guides, because the guides are going to help you, right, in MLA and APA, okay? In regards to that, this is a little bit outside of the online library, ACC Upswing, but it is part of some services that you definitely should know about. The Academic Success Center have a part online that is Upswing, and via Upswing, you can get your papers examined. Okay, don't do it the same day. But if you go there and you log in with your W number and your password, you will get access to a place where you can upload your assignment and ask, online for feedback. That's really important, okay? So as we are approaching the end of the hour, I want to see if I have any remaining other questions that you might want me to tackle. Let's see. If you have a question, type it on the chat. Thank you, Gerardo. Have a nice day. if you don't have any questions, you can say no questions. Thank you, Ramisha. Thank you, Yayu. Thank you, Garrett. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, do remember that there are more webinars that you and workshops that you can access throughout the semester. I am going to drop a link on the chat too, in case you want to access additional webinars from the library, specifically in regards to sources. And do please sign up for your student life events, the ones that Jana is putting together for you. They are fantastic, and we really appreciate your participation today. Guadalupe is saying, if there are a few things you want us to remember for today, what it would be? The number one thing that I want you to remember is to use that Ask Online feature to ask the librarian just when you have a question, or if you can't figure out something else, or if you encounter an issue with the website, right there. The second thing that I want you to remember is that Eagle Library Search is going to give you a general overview of the sources that we have, right? But then the last thing that I also want you to remember is that we have around 300 databases that you can use, right? You have to determine and you have to play with databases so that you learn how to maneuver them in order to extract the information that you seek, okay? Thank you for that question, Guadalupe. Okay, Jana. Thank you, Kinsa.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, Alex, for this wonderful information. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Great job on your questions. You guys are on point. I feel proud of you. Go to the library, ask questions online on the Ask, and study hard. October is coming, so it's time for the midterms. So it's time to hustle, okay? Don't fall behind, no procrastination. Get to study really hard, okay? Remember, we're here for you. Ask whatever you need. We'll try our best.